Bitcoin has, how can I put this, been on an absolute tear as of recently. People thought that the highs it reached in 2017 was extreme. Yeah, you might want to think again. 2021 has put those previous highs to shame. And what this has done is it's left a lot of investors, as you can imagine, saying it's a bubble. Stay away from Bitcoin, it's gonna pop. Rookie investors are overinflating it. And there is some truth to that. But there's also a whole different side of the, let's just say coin that we need to discuss. You see, a lot of people like to jump on either side of the argument, whether that be the bull side or the crash side. But I want to give a bit of nuance in this video, something that we don't really see too much in this day and age. I'm going to do my best to try show you the full picture of things. First of all, if you're investing in Bitcoin or even thinking about it, you need to know the basics of what it is. Okay, let's think about it. More and more transactions are happening online, right? Am I right or am I wrong? It's the truth. The problem is that each transaction goes through a bank or credit card company who take a cut. Not only do they take this cut, but we put our trust that these big billion-dollar finance companies will do everything right. Will they keep our details safe? Will they ensure the transaction is accurate? Will they secure our accounts from hackers or employees in their own company? These are the current risks. But what if we can just cut out these middlemen with a safe and secure way? I bring to you Bitcoin, where instead of these big bank companies storing the transactions in a ledger, all of the users record all of the transactions at the same time, thus there's no way to fool the system. Cut out transaction costs, cut out the middlemen, cut out relying on these big banks and credit card companies. This is the genius behind Bitcoin. And people aren't dumb. People have been paying attention to this technology and they've been flooding the market with their dollars to buy Bitcoin. What this has done is it's escalated the price of it to dizzying heights, leaving the inevitable worry, and I'm sure you've seen this as much as I have, that Bitcoin is in a bubble and it will pop. So let's address the arguments behind this idea of the Bitcoin bubble popping. First, the thing you need to realize about Bitcoin is there's no insurance policies, there's no circuit breakers, there's no backstops. Bitcoin's price could just collapse. And it's not like, oh, we've hit $5,000, that's the minimum it can go down, and then you'll get a refund. No, it could go to zero, and you couldn't say anything. The other thing is that we're in weird economic times right now. No one can deny this. People who aren't used to free money are getting quite nice amounts of it, we can just say that, in the forms of stimulus checks. Now, some people do need this to pay for food, water, electricity, etc. But for a lot of people, this is extra money. And they think, let's put this into the market. Let's buy some Bitcoin. And it pushes prices higher. And it's easy to do this. Easy to buy Bitcoin these days, at least compared to 3, 5, 10 years ago. You can just use PayPal or Square or sign up to Robinhood for free and you can start buying Bitcoin. These factors mean you get rookies, beginners who are getting free money, don't know much about the market, and they can easily put this money into Bitcoin. A lot of investors are saying it's because of these reasons why the price is too high and overinflated. And these are good arguments. Every investor needs to at least pay attention to them. At least if you're looking for the truth, or if you consider yourself a full picture investor. If you're not, just go view someone else's channel, someone who just wants to sell you something. Sorry for that rant, guys. Back to the video. Another thing that I'd highly recommend is looking at Bitcoin's price history. What are the rises and falls, the previous bubbles, how's it taken place? Now, first of all, just because price went a certain way in the past, it does not mean that it will definitely do the same pattern in the future. However, it may give us some clues. So essentially with Bitcoin, there's two key bubble/crashes that we can learn from. The first was in 2013. Probably not many of you investing in Bitcoin back then, that's my guess. And it seems small in this graph, but the percentage points were big. So October the 3rd, 2013, the price was $114, as you can see. Then what happened was we saw a huge run up in terms of the price. In just 3 months, it went to a peak of $1,152. So that's an increase of around 10 times the amount in 3 months. What happened then after that was it went on a very slow crash and only bottomed 2 years later in January 2015. The very bottom was $172. It doesn't show you exactly on this graph. So that's one bit of history we have to look to. The other bit is, I'm sure you all know it, it was the 2017 bubble/crash. There we saw about a year build up of price and investors flooding into Bitcoin. The price went from $754 in December 2016 to a year later $16,749 in December 2017. And we all know what happened next. Bitcoin crashed where it bottomed a year later around that $3,000, $4,000 mark. So history tells us that it could take a year or even more for Bitcoin to fully reach its peak in a bubble, or just a couple of months. No one knows for sure, and that's the exciting thing about it. And the interesting thing that I did want to point out was that all of the major crashes in the past, apart from the 2017 one, were just tiny blips of what was to come. You know, they really were just small speed bumps. And this is one of the big arguments for the Bitcoin bulls. They say, don't worry too much about a crash, look at things long term. And they see the value of Bitcoin long term being worth much more than just 20, 30, 50, 100k a coin. You know, expert investors like Cathie Wood think that it is possible that Bitcoin can surpass the $500,000 price range per coin. But you should be asking why. What is your evidence behind these predictions to back this up? Okay, let me try and explain some of these bull theses. If we take a look at all of the Bitcoins in the world, how much is it worth? It's currently valued around $600 billion, give or take, at the time of making this video. Now, that means nothing. We have to compare this to something. So let's compare it to a company like Apple. Apple has a market cap of $2.2 trillion. So if you add all of the Bitcoins together, it's not even worth 1/3 of the size of Apple. If we look at gold, for example, gold's total value, that's around $12 trillion, 20 times bigger than Bitcoin. So that just gives you a feel. You know, everyone's saying Bitcoin's overpriced. I wouldn't be so quick to make that judgment. At least by this metric, in the long term, they've got more upward trajectory to go. You know, it's as Cathie Wood said, Bitcoin is so much bigger an idea than even Apple, which in itself is a pretty big idea. Because think about it for a second. No more mass devaluing of money through heavy government printing. Bitcoin has a set amount of coins in the system, 21 million in total available. That's the max. No more than that can be mined. So all of these questions about economists worrying about the Fed intervening with the dollar, printing trillions of them each year, making them worth less every day, with Bitcoin, there is no such problem. Don't worry about big banks and credit card companies dipping their hands into your transactions. Bitcoin cuts that out. You no longer need trust in these big corporations and governments with your hard-earned money. It truly is a game changer when it comes to currency. And this is why we're starting to see big institutions seeing its value and making investments in it. Square, the financial services company, invested $50 million in Bitcoin. Grayscale, the investment company, has $10 billion worth of crypto. Rick Ryder, chief executive of BlackRock, the world's largest investment funds manager, proclaimed cryptocurrency is here to stay. So that brings us on to the question, should we still buy Bitcoin? Even though it's at high prices, is it still a good purchase? So here's my thoughts on it, guys. Bitcoin is high risk, okay, that's obvious, but it's also extremely high reward. And what I mean by this is, okay, you could lose everything. There's no doubt about that. Bitcoin may not be the cryptocurrency that is fully adopted. It may be a different one, or crypto may just not fully come to being used in society much. That's the risk. Lose everything. However, on the other side of the coin is you could make not just double, but 10x, 20x, 30 times your original investments. Looking at what Bitcoin is compared to Apple and even gold, it's not even close to their size, and that's why the upside is still huge. And it's for these reasons I like to own at least a little bit of Bitcoin in my portfolio, because I know I could lose all of that, but I could also double, triple, 30 times my original investment. And that's why I think Bitcoin is worthwhile, but I never bet anything too large. I only bet what I can afford to lose.